Alan Moore's Miracle Man. It's one of those comics that didn't just tell a superhero story. It grabbed the entire genre, ripped it apart, and then rebuilt it into this absolutely terrifying, profound, philosophical epic. So in this explainer, we're going to break down how Moore used some heavy-hitting philosophy and myth to completely change the game, taking us way, way beyond the cape.
The whole thing kicks off with this really simple but deeply unsettling question. Just imagine for a second that everything you remember about being a hero, all your classic adventures, your amazing powers, even your magic word, was all just a lie. A really, really elaborate lie. That's the rabbit hole our main character, Michael Moran, falls into. And that's exactly where we start.
And this right here, this is the engine that drives the entire story. This quote from Friedrich Nietzsche isn't just some cool-sounding decoration. It's practically the comic's mission statement. The whole narrative becomes this brutal, totally fascinating look at what it really means for humanity to be surpassed.
Okay, so before Alan Moore can build up his new kind of God, he first has to tear the old one down. The very first step in this whole process is a complete and total deconstruction of the classic superhero that we all think we know and love.
Now, Moore's main tool for this job is something comic fans know very well, the redcon. But he doesn't use it to just fix some minor plot hole. No, he wields it like a philosophical weapon. The point isn't just to change the past, it's to completely execute the old innocent myth and replace it with a much, much darker reality.
And here is that dark truth. Miracle Man's entire happy-go-lucky history, his so-called golden age of adventures, yeah, none of it actually happened. It was all a sophisticated dream, a virtual reality simulation that was being fed directly into his mind, while his body was just lying in stasis. The hero's whole identity is literally built on a foundation of lies. So, with that old myth completely shattered, Moore starts to build the story's real foundation. And it's a cold, scientific, and very explicitly Nietzschean one.
So, that magic word, commota? Turns out it wasn't magic at all. It was just a post-hypnotic trigger. Miracle Man's powers actually come from a top-secret British government program with a very telling name, Project Zarathustra. And that reference is absolutely deliberate. It's signaling that this isn't a story about a hero born from fantasy. It's about the forceful, scientific creation of a Superman.
And believe me, this project was anything but noble. It was a cold, amoral operation run by the monstrously egotistical Dr. Gargunza. He used reverse-engineered alien tech to create superhuman clones. This was never about creating a savior. It was about manufacturing a living weapon through some seriously unethical science.
This whole scientific origin story completely flips the classic idea of a secret identity on its head. It stops being a clever disguise and, becomes a source of genuine psychological horror.
The story reveals this horror through something called the two-body system. And this is the key to everything. Michael Moran and Miracle Man are not the same person. They're two completely separate beings. One is the original human, and the other is an advanced, superpowered clone.
So, here's how it works. When Moran says that trigger word, he's not just changing his clothes, he is literally swapping places with the clone. His human body gets shunted into this void called infraspace, and his consciousness gets transferred into the superhuman form. It's a terrifyingly clinical, almost sterile exchange.
I mean, just think about what this really means for a second. The powerful, godlike body of Miracle Man, it has no mind of its own. It's just a non-sentient vessel, a perfectly designed weapon floating around in another dimension, just waiting for a mind to come and pilot it. The whole romantic idea of a heroic alter ego is just gone, obliterated.
All right, so from the absolute wreckage of this deconstruction, something new and way more powerful starts to crawl out. Once all the lies are stripped away, the being we know as Miracle Man starts to become a true modern god.
But this Nietzschean idea of the Superman, it's not clean. It actually splits into two totally opposing forces. On one hand, you have Miracle Man, who becomes the lightning, this constructive force that's trying to build a new world out of the ashes. But then you have his old sidekick, Kid Miracle Man, who embodies the madness. He is a sociopathic, nihilistic expression of absolute power with zero restraint.
And here Miracle Man completes his transformation. He totally sheds his human origins, declaring that his former self, Michael Moran, is dead. He doesn't see himself as a man who can become a god anymore. He is simply a god, and humanity is something he has now totally left behind.
So, what happens when this new god finally decides to fix the world? Well, The final act of the story becomes this profound and deeply unsettling critique of utopia itself. So, Miracle Man creates a global paradise. He ends war, poverty, sickness, all of it. But, and this is a huge but, he does it by imposing his will on the entire planet. What this creates is a kind of benevolent totalitarianism, a perfect world that nobody was ever asked if they actually wanted. It's a dictatorship, even if it's a really nice one.
The story's central critique is really captured in this one powerful metaphor. The utopia is a gilded cage. It's beautiful, it's safe, it's perfect, but it's also a prison. Because by solving every single problem, Miracle Man has removed the one thing that gives human life its meaning: the struggle, the need to strive and to overcome challenges on our own.
This whole thing creates this deep philosophical contradiction. The utopia that this Superman built actually violates the core principle of Nietzsche's own philosophy. It creates a comfortable, stagnant system, which is exactly the kind of passive existence the Übermensch was supposed to transcend, not enforce. It's the ultimate and most tragic irony of the entire story.
Which, of course, brings us to the ultimate question the story just forces you to confront. If you could have a world with zero suffering, but the price was your freedom to choose, to fail, and to strive, would you take that deal? Is a perfect world actually worth the cost of what makes us human?
And we'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on. Miracle Man's journey really shows that when beings with the power of gods decide to remake the world in their own image, our old rules of morality, they just don't apply anymore. And that leaves us with maybe the most unsettling question of all. If gods really do walk among us, who gets to define good and evil?